Okay, we're starting Photoshop Lesson 10 today, and Lesson 10 is more advanced layer styles, your filter and filter galleries using smart objects, and finally we will do, we are going to create a panorama, which is like a big wide shot. So to get started, let's go ahead and open Photoshop. From your mini bridge, go ahead and click Launch Bridge. Go to where it says Lessons, click the drop down arrow. It's kind of slow today. And go to Lesson 10. And you can see where we're going if you look at the end file, but let's go ahead and open 10A Start. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's go File, Save As, and go to your Assignments folder. Create a new folder called Photoshop Lesson 10. And I want you to call this Museum, M-U-S-E-U-M, Museum. And let's change our format before you press OK. Change the file type to Photoshop and click Save. So we need to crop this first and foremost, so let's click our crop tool, and where it says unconstrained, we want to type right next to it 500 tab 500. And we need to click on Set Size and Rotation. And we want to do 500. And make sure you change inches to pixels. Change inches to pixels. It's very important that you do that. Height 500 pixels. And you want the resolution to be 300. And click OK. So let's go ahead and drag so you get the complete building, and press Enter to set your crop. And do a File, Save. Let's open. Leave this open and open Capitol Building. Do a File, Save As. Go to your Lessons folder, or sorry, your Assignments folder. Photoshop Lesson 10. And you can save this as Capitol Building, but change the format to Photoshop. Change the format to Photoshop and click Save. Go ahead and press Enter twice to set and save the crop, and then go File and Save. The last one we need to open is Washington Monument. So we should be able to navigate in our mini bridge. Washington Monument. File, Save As. Assignments folder. Change the format to Photoshop and save. Go ahead and press enter once to get the crop tool ready and drag so that the Washington Monument is in the center of your crop. Your center is correct right here, so you want the Washington Monument to be right on the center. Press enter and file, save. Let's go ahead and reset our crop tool. So to reset our tool, remember, click the drop down arrow next to the picture of the tool. Click the little gear and click reset tool. And then click on your move tool. Let's open background. And we need to save this as 10 working. So file, save as, go to your assignments folder, Photoshop lesson 10. 10 working, and change the format to Photoshop and click save. Make sure that the background is still showing, which it is, and let's make sure that our rulers are showing. To make sure that your rulers are showing, go to View and Rulers. Make sure there's a check mark next to it. Okay, so with our rulers, what we're going to do is we're going to set guidelines, or grid lines as I refer to them. And what they do is they allow you to help align objects on a plane or on a workspace or canvas or whatever you're working in. Guidelines help you align objects. Let's click on the window on your menu bar and click on Info. Oops, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. Window, Info. Okay, what this is going to do is watch your X and Y. Okay, as you're moving your mouse around, this allows you to see where your mouse is at. It also lets you know what size or where you're placing. So that way, for those of you that don't know how to read a ruler, can see, okay, I need to be at 4 by 1 point, or 4 by 2. Okay, so you can see the X and Y, 4 by 2. So from the ruler at the top of the screen, we are going to create a horizontal grid line. And notice that you get a blue line, so if you click and drag down, you get a blue line that shows up. That blue line is a guide, and it will help you align your images. You want to drag down until you see a 3.000 next to the Y coordinate. And if you can't get it perfect, 3.0 is fine. Even if it's 3.02 or whatever, that's fine. That's close enough. From the ruler at the side of your screen, it's going to be considered a vertical guideline. And you need to click and drag to the right. So click and hold and drag to the right until you see 0.75 next to the X. Create 5 more vertical grid lines. The first one at 2.4. The next one at 2.6. The next one at 4.3. 4.6, and the last one at 6.3. Okay, once you have them all set, click Window, Arrange, and Tile All in Grid. If you can't find Tile All in Grid, go ahead and click Tile All vertically. And make sure you are on your Move tool. Click the capital building, which is this one in the middle, and drag. So click on it and drag it to your background. Move the museum, so click Museum and drag it to your background. And Monument, or Washington Monument, and drag to your background. And then we can close these other three. So we only need our 10 working file open. We need to rename our layers accordingly. So layer 3 is our monument. So we need to click on our monument, double click to rename it, and name it monument. Layer 2 should be your museum if you drug them in the same order I did. And layer 1 should be your capital. Oops. And this is OL, not AL. Okay, so your Washington Monument or your monument layer should be right here. Your capital layer, we're going to move so that the top touches the 3 and it's between 0.75 and 2.4. Then our museum, we're going to move so that the top of the image is on the 3 and is between the 2.6 and the 4.3. And then finally your monument, the top should be at the 3 and should be 4.6 to 6.3. To remove your grid lines, you can click and drag. So like you can click and drag out here in the extra space and drag up to the ruler to get rid of them, or you can click on View and where it says Clear Guides, click on Clear Guides and it clears all of them out of your way. So let's go ahead and save. So again, guidelines just help you align images to make them look even. Click on your window button on your menu bar and click on character. This is your character panel, remember. This is where you can change settings for your type tool. Let's go ahead and click on our type tool. And I want you to change the font to Chaparral Pro, CHAPPARAL. And we want it to be regular. You want the font size to be 36. You want the tracking, VA, to be 220. Let's click on our color, and you want R to be 255, G and B to both be 0. Then you can click OK. You want it to be all caps. You do not want it to be bold. And you want the anti-aliasing and the AA to be smooth. Click the type tool somewhere in the sky and type greetings from. Click your move tool and let's move our words so that they're in the top center, as close to the center as possible. Click the type tool again. Click anywhere under greetings from and type Washington DC. And while we're still, let's click on our move tool. And go ahead and click back on your type tool, but don't click anywhere to type anything. Let's change our character panel to Madrid Pro, MYRID or AD. You want the style to be bold. You want the font size to be 48. Tracking to be 0. You want the color to be 255 R, 255 green, 255 blue, RGB. So what we're doing is we're making it white. Go ahead and click OK. We can leave everything else the same. And notice how it changed our font for us. Let's go ahead and click on our move tool. And let's move this Washington DC so it is centered under greetings from as best as possible. Click on your greetings from layer. Click the FX button at the bottom of the layers panel and click on outer glow. So this time we're using a different layer style. We want the blend mode to be screen, the opacity to be 40. Oops. So opacity to be 40. You want your color, click on this little color swatch, and you want 255, 255, 255. You want your spread to be 14, and you want your size to be 40. Then you can click OK. Click the Washington DC layer. On the color panel, change the R to 255. So we want it to be red, make sure it's red. Click the FX button. Before we do that, make sure that your color, your background color, is white. So it's red on top, white in the back. So to do that, to make sure it's white in the back, red on top, you can click this little button right here, which is your default. Then go to your color panel and change R to 255. Now let's click on our FX button and click on Gradient Overlay. Change the gradient swatch to red and transparent stripes. Click the little where it says gradient, click the drop down arrow, and it should be one of the last options, okay? It'll be red with stripes and a checkerboard. Then you can click the up arrow to set that option. Go up to drop shadow or down to drop shadow. Make sure there's a check mark next to it. Change the opacity for the drop shadow to 45 and the distance to 9. Then you can click OK to set both of them. And let's have this as a good saving place. Okay, so the outer glow and the gradient overlay are just two more advanced layer styles that you can use. Select the museum layer. On our toolbar, let's click Default, Foreground and Background Color. Your shortcut key is D on your keyboard, so if you can't find it, just click on D on your keyboard, but it should be right here. Click the filter on the menu bar and click Gallery or Filter Gallery. Filter Gallery includes a preview window of what it's going to look like, a list of available filters to apply, and then you also have a settings panel or basic panel to change the settings. Click the sketch filter and click on graphic pen. Notice your preview selection automatically shows it. Your settings panel, you want the light and dark to be 25. And then you can click OK. So see how we have this wonderful black and white. This is one way that you can hand paint an object or make a picture look like it's hand painted, because that's what we're going to do. Right click on the thumbnail of the museum layer and click Select Pixels. Selecting the pixels selects just the pixels in that layer, and we need to zoom in on just this layer. So let's click on our zoom tool and zoom in, and I would say just enough so you can see it full screen or as close to it as possible. Let's click on our brush tool. Make sure you get your brush tool, not a different brush. You want the brush tool. Don't use your history brush. You want the brush tool where it says specifically brush tool. Okay? Because if you don't get the correct one, your painting is going to be completely wrong. On the option bar, let's change the size of the brush to 90. And let's just click on the soft round brush. And you want your size to be 90 in your blend mode. Or sorry, size to be 90, hardness to be 0. You want your blend mode to darken. And change the opacity to 20. On the color panel, change R to 0, G to 189, and B to 255. So we're going to be painting the sky. Start painting just the sky of the museum. So you're going to paint just the sky. If you get a little bit on the buildings, it's not that bad if it happens. If you go over more than once, it will darken the color. So if you notice, I'm clicking and going multiple times over certain places, so that way it will look like an actual sky. Let's change the color panel. So R is still 0, G is 184, and B is 0. Change the size of the brush to 70. Change the brush style to the soft brush, which it should be on. And change your opacity to 80. And then paint the trees and the grass. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I also don't want it to look like a 2-year-old got a hold of the mouse. Okay, I know that not all of you are artists, but you can tell what should be a sidewalk and what's a person and the difference between those. If you need to paint this back part of the grass, you can make the size of your brush smaller. I'm going to go down to about 39. Okay, so now change the color panel. So R is 210. G is 0. And B is 0. So kind of a brick red color. Change the size of the brush to 40. Change the brush style to soft brush if it isn't already. And the opacity should stay at 80. And we're going to paint the buildings. Do the best that you can. I don't expect it to be perfect. And remember, it always looks worse zoomed in. Okay? If you can tell, mine's not perfect. Okay. What I want you to do is go View, Fit on Screen, and it actually looks a lot better when you're zoomed out than it does zoomed in. Do Select, Deselect, click on your Move tool, and let's save. So, one way to make an image look like it's hand painted is by applying a black and white filter and painting over the filter. We'll learn another way when we do lesson 11. Right-click on the background layer and click Convert to Smart Object. So, to take a Photoshop object to a Smart Object, you right-click and click Convert to Smart Object. Remember, to go from Smart Object to Photoshop Object, you right-click and click Rasterize Layer. Rename the layer Capital and Mall. Capital and Mall. Now, double click, sorry, don't double click the words, double click the actual picture thumbnail part of the layer. So, what you need to do is double click right here, and this box will pop up telling you that after editing contents, choose File, Save to commit the changes, and those changes will be reflected upon returning to the 010 working. So what it's telling you is you are going to be exiting this file, and whenever you save it, it'll automatically save both. So we're going to work with just this layer. This is considered our smart object, so that's why we can save it this way. And we need to click your quick selection tool. Make sure that it says New Selection on your options bar. And click to select the sky. You may have to click to drag more than once. Now I want you to click the Subtract From, and I want you to click on the Capitol building to deselect the Capitol building. Okay, you may have to click more than once to deselect all of the Capitol building. So it took time to select this. Let's go ahead and on the option bar, let's click Refined Edges. Change Smooth to 25. Feather to 30. And Shift Edge -20. And this allows you to have a more natural looking skyline. Then click OK. Now, we took the time to subtract out the Capitol building. We need to save our selection. Go to Select and Save Selection. And type where it says Name, type Sky. And then you can click OK. Saving a selection just allows you to save time when you have taken time to refine your selection. So we took our time to off-click the Capitol building. We don't want to have to take that time again. So now let's go ahead and deselect. Let's set the color on the toolbar back to default. And then click the double-headed arrows, which is right next to it, to switch the foreground and background. Create a new layer. So go to your Layers panel, the bottom of your Layers panel, and click New Layer. And rename it Paint. Click Select on your menu bar. And click Load Selection. Where it says Channel, click the drop down arrow and click on Sky and click OK. So it automatically loads our sky selection. Click on the brush tool, and on your option bar click your brush picker, and you want to scroll down to find the star. And it's this one with 70 underneath it. Change the size of the brush to 500. Change the blend mode to normal. Change the opacity back to 100. And click to create a star. They're not technical, really looking stars, but they're okay. When you're using special brushes, which a star is considered a special brush, you cannot just click and drag across. Okay? It'll streak it, it'll blotch it all over the place, and that's not what we want. We want individual looking stars. So to do that, you need to click to create about 20 or so stars. And they can overlap. Okay, click the Move tool, so then that way you don't accidentally paint another one. And go to your Layers panel. Change the opacity of our paint layer to 50. And save. And let's close just our layer 2. Okay, notice that our smart object automatically appeared in our everything that we did to our smart object is now part of our original file. Let's go ahead and save our Washington, D.C. Okay, the last couple things we're going to do is we're going to apply a smart filter. Click the capital mall layer, which you should be clicked on, and click filter and point to artistic. Okay, click on filter gallery, click on artistic, and click cutout. Change the number of levels to 8. Edge, the bottom one, to 3. And then click OK. So now it looks like it was cut out. Kind of an interesting texture to it. Click the capital layer. Click the FX button. And click drop shadow. Change the opacity to 40, distance to 15, spread to 9, and size to 9. Click OK. So now you can see a slight shadow back there. Press and hold your Alt key, drag the drop shadow effect to museum and monument. And let's go File and Save. And we're done with this part, but we still have another portion that we're going to do. So let's go ahead and close this, but before we do, remember you have your filter gallery. To convert to a smart object, you right click and click Convert to Smart Object. Your filter gallery allows you to show previews of your filters before you use them. And one way of two to make a picture look like it's hand painted is to apply a black and white filter and then use your brush tool to paint over it. So let's go ahead and close our 10 working, but leave Photoshop open. Do you want to save changes? Yes, you want to save changes. From your mini bridge, I want you to double click and open IMG 1441. Double click to open 1442 as well. With the two image open, or with this image 1442 on your screen, click Image, click Adjustments, and click Match Color. Click Source, 1441. Leave everything else the same and click OK. And then you can just click File, Save. Now let's go ahead and open 1443. One 1444, 1445, and 1446. Okay, so with them all open, let's go ahead and go to 1443 first. Go to Image, Adjustments, Match Color, Source should be 1441, and click OK. And save. 1444, Image, Adjustments, Match Color, Source 1441, and save. 5. What we're doing is we're preparing our images to be stitched together into a panorama. So go ahead and click, make sure you're on Source 1441, OK. And the last one. Make sure you save all of them also. Otherwise it won't work correctly. Okay, now once we have them all saved, we can close all of them. And to create a panorama, the first thing you do is click on, make sure you don't have anything open. Go to File, Automate, Photo Merge. We want it to be auto. Click Browse. We need to go to our Lessons folder because that's where I saved mine at. So you'll have to go to Photoshop, Lessons, Lesson 10. Click once on 1441, press Shift and click 1446 and click OK. So you should have 6 images in your source files. At the bottom, make sure you have a check mark next to all 3 boxes and then click OK. And be patient because it's going to take a few minutes. So go ahead and remove your hand from the mouse and just kind of watch what it's doing. When you are doing this, you must make sure that your photos are in order of how it actually looks. If you have the image numbers out of order, the accuracy will not be correct. Also, in the layer, watch how it brings it all together. So notice it brought it all together and it aligned it so that way it looks like it's one image. So let's go ahead and close our character panel to get it out of the way. So all of our photo is aligned. So look at our layers panel. Our layers panel looks slightly different than normal. So what we should do is click on the layers panel menu. And you want to click on Merge Layers. So we want it to be one full layer. Go ahead and click on File and Save As. And go to your Assignments folder, Photoshop Lesson 10, and save this as 10B Working. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to just kind of crop this so that way we get rid of this extra background. So click on your crop tool and we can drag down a little bit to get rid of the building or to get rid of the top. Bring it up all the way. Bring the crop tool up all the way so you cut off all the grass. You may bring it in just a little bit on both sides. And go ahead and press enter. Okay, on our layers panel, let's go ahead and click on our move tool first. And we want to create a new layer. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to get rid of this transparent background part behind it. So on this new layer, I want you to click on rectangular marquee. And I want you to drag a marquee. It's about that long. Okay. What you're wanting it to do is to look somewhat bigger than the transparent area. Click the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool allows you to sample colors. So it may be hidden behind another tool. And it may not be. It's the tool right underneath your crop tool. So I want you to click the darker shade of blue. Darker shade of blue. Notice how it changes your foreground color to the darker color. Click the background color, which is black, and sample the lighter shade of blue. And then click OK. Click on your gradient tool, which mine's hidden behind my paint bucket, and click foreground to background in the gradient style. And dragging from the bottom of the selection start at the top of the selection and drag straight down. If you can't get it to be straight, press and hold your shift key. Drag straight down to the bottom of your selection. Do a select and deselect. And we're going to click edit and okay, before we can go to edit, we have to click and select both layers in our layers panel. So make sure both layers are selected. To select both layers, you can click on one, press your shift key and click on the other. Click on edit, auto blend, and you want it to be on panorama, and click OK. And so what it's going to do is it's going to blend all those layers together. Makes it look fairly natural of a skyline. Let's go ahead and click on our move tool, and I want you to merge the layers. From your mini bridge, open DC letters and just drag it on to your layer. And you want to place it on the left edge. And let's go ahead and flatten these layers together. So right click on one of your layers and click flatten image. And let's save. So remember, the steps to creating a panorama is to go File, Automate, and you're going to pick the source files. Make sure that your boxes are checked at the bottom, and then click OK. Then you'll crop it out and get rid of the transparent part of the background. And with that, we can close Photoshop because we have completed the lecture for lesson 10.